Hi friends, happy Foster Care Friday. Also, happy Pride Month. I'm so excited for Pride Month. I absolutely love Pride Month. Yeah, just love is love. Treat everyone equally. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about all the different acronyms that come with being a foster parent, an adoptive parent. There's so many acronyms, and sometimes some of them make a lot of sense, and sometimes others can be very confusing and overwhelming when you're starting the process of fostering. So I do have notes. I got this list from a blog site called Foster2 Forever, and it's foster the number 2 forever, and it's a fostering family and adoptive family blog. So if you're interested in looking the list up, just Google them. If I have time, I will try to remember to put the link for it down below, but Foster2 Forever is where I got this list. It's a good comprehensive list. So I will be referencing that. So you'll see me kind of looking down and around. I don't want to do too much editing today. It's a super stormy, like gross Friday, and I'm tired. So I'm not going to edit me looking down out. Sorry, that's Hannah. See her little tail going behind. Anyway, so I'm going to jump into these acronyms. If you're interested in some of these, if some of the acronyms are confusing to you, stick around. But first, if you're new here, my name is Anna Leonora, and together with my husband, Jason, we are foster parents in real life. And here on my channel, From the Fosters, we do foster parenting life together, and we raise awareness for the foster care system. So if any of that interests you, please consider liking the video, subscribing to my channel so that you can join my growing cyber family here on YouTube. You can also follow me at TikTok and Instagram at From the Fosters. Anyway, let's jump right into this. So this is a list that encompasses not only just fostering and adoptive terms, it also incorporates a lot of special needs terms and acronyms because a lot of children in the foster care system do have special needs. So I'm going to get right into it. Some of these you will be familiar with, some of them you may not be. So first one is ADD and ADHD, which is attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. These are very common diagnoses for children who have experienced abuse and neglect at a young age. So they're very common to hear in the fostering and adoptive world. When you see the letters AS or AD or FS or FD with a number after it, that stands for adopted son or adopted daughter and their age. So, or foster son and foster daughter and their age. So for example, I could refer to my foster son as FS5, foster son 5 years old, or FS3, foster son 3 years old. And then once they're adopted, they could be AD is adopted daughter, AS5 or AS3. So if you see those letters, sometimes that one confuses people, but if you see AS, AD, FS, FD with a number after it, that's all that's referring to is their adopted or foster child and the age of said child. And then there's also BD, which can stand for birth dad or bio dad, and BF is birth family or bio family, and BM is birth mother or bio mom. I don't actually see those acronyms a lot. I usually see people say bio mom, birth mom, things like that. Like I actually see it written out. I don't see the acronyms that often, but those acronyms do exist. So it's important to note them. And then another one you see a lot is CASA, is Court Appointed Special Advocate. This is a person who is appointed by the court to advocate for the child. Now, not every state has CASA. Some states have guardian ad litems, which is GAL. So I will go ahead and include that one here. I am going in alphabetical order, but I'll include that one here because they're pretty much the same thing. Depending on your state, there are some states that refer to the guardian ad litem as the actual attorney for the child. In our state, the guardian ad litem is the court-appointed special advocate. So they are a volunteer, they're not an attorney. Yeah, I don't really know how else to explain that. They are, I believe CASAs are volunteers also. Don't quote me on that because we don't have them in my state. But typically they are people who are volunteers. They did go through a training. They act as the child's voice in court. So they get to know all of the members of the team, the foster family, the birth family, the child, the social worker, all of the child's providers, and they tell the court what they believe is in the child's best interest to happen in a case. CPS, Child Protective Services, CW, caseworker, or SW, social worker. Those tend to be synonymous with each other. DSS is Department of Social Services. So on this list, they have ED listed as emotionally disturbed. We know ED can also be eating disorder, among other things. But sorry, that was weird. I'm sorry. But in this case, I've never actually seen anybody use ED for emotionally disturbed, but just to have that kind of in your mind that it can be one. It says that it's a term defined in U.S. federal law for children with such severe emotional problems that adversely affect their ability to learn in an educational setting. So I guess that's a federal law term. So just be cognizant that it might not be some of the other meanings that you think it might be. FAS is fetal alcohol syndrome. And then the most severe type of that is FASD, which is fetal alcohol syndrome disorder. Fetal alcohol syndrome disorder. And this is, again, things that the child could have some neurologic, behavioral, and learning issues due to the birth mother having excessive alcohol while the child was in utero. FMLA is Family Medical Leave Act. This is a U.S. federal law that requires large employers to provide employees with unpaid leave for serious health conditions, to care for sick family members, or to care for a newborn, adopted, or foster child. So foster children they are covered in FMLA. So if you're with a larger employee that is required to provide FMLA, you can take FMLA for a new placement. I have not done that. I am planning to take FMLA when our adoptions are final and take some adoption leave because we also are covered under FMLA for an adoption. But my employer also has maternity leave for both birthing mothers and maternity leave for adoptive mothers. So I do plan to take a maternity leave once we have some adoptions finalized. So I've not needed FMLA for a new placement yet, but I also have not taken a newborn NAS baby home from the hospital. So if you were taking a newborn NAS baby home from the hospital, I could see where that would totally make sense. Or if you were taking a very large sibling group, just know that that is something that is available to you for foster children as well. FTT is failure to thrive. This is underdevelopment and lack of growth in a child, where their weight is lower than the 3rd percentile of standard on the growth charts for their age. ICAMA is one I haven't seen. It's Interstate Compact on Adoption and Medical Assistance. But I have seen ICPC, which is Interstate Compact on Placement of Children. This is when there is somebody who is trying to take a child from a different state. So this happens, we see this a lot in the foster care system with kinship members. So maybe there's a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle or an older sibling or something like that that wants to take the child, but they live in a different state. You cannot just move children from one state to another outside the bounds of their parents moving them without there being some paperwork and agreements and things like that. So ICPC is common with people who are taking kinship of children that live in different states. ICWA, Indian Child Welfare Act. This is a federal law affecting children of people that are members of Native tribes. Basically that it's not only for foster care, it's for adoption as well, but basically saying that the law gives preference to a child's extended family or to the child's tribe over somebody else. So the tribe may say, hey, we want to take this child, we're going to place them with someone that they don't know, they're not related to, but they're a member of our tribe, versus them going to a family outside the tribe. So the native tribes have that ability and that federal law protection to be able to keep children within their native tribes if the tribe so chooses. Of course, there are people who adopt native children or take foster placements of native children. Winter Hendrickson is one on here. She hasn't posted in a while, I don't think, but she's got some videos. She adopted a sibling set of children that were part of a native tribe. So of course it's possible, but it's just a federal law protecting the Native Americans that are members of these federally recognized tribes to be able to keep children within their tribes and within their culture. IDEA is Individuals with Disability Education Act. IEP is a big one for children in foster care and adopted children. A lot of them require IEPs. It's an individualized education plan, which is a document that is required for a child who receives special education services, and it's designed to address each child's unique learning issues and specific educational goals. MAP, our foster parenting training classes were called TIPS MAP, which was trauma-informed parenting. And then MAP is Model Approach to Partnerships in Parenting. So it's a training to help teach foster parents how to share parenting with the bio parents in the best interest of the children. ODD is Oppositional Defiant Disorder. OHI is Other Health Impairment. In this case, Pride, of course, we know Pride is like Pride Month for the LGBTQ plus community, but in this case, Pride is another form of the TIPS MAP training. So TIPS MAP is what it's called in North Carolina. It is called Pride in other states. That stands for Pride Resources Pride Resources, Parent Resources for Information, Development, and Education Training for Adoptive, Foster, and Kinship Parents. So it says Texas, Illinois, and New Jersey use this training program. So in those states, it's called Pride. In my state, it's called TIPS MAP. I know it's called TIPS MAP in some other states, but I don't know exactly which states. I think I've heard of a training called Unity also. So there's trainings called a couple different things. RAD is Reactive Attachment Disorder, not uncommon in children who are adopted or in foster care. RT is Residential Treatment, so it's a live-in facility that provides mental health and behavioral treatment. SLP is Speech Language Pathologist. TPR. TPR is a big one, and at some point I will do a video about TPR just in and of itself. But TPR stands for Termination of Parental Rights. So this occurs when children have been in the system for however long, and the courts decide that the parents are not going to be able to work their plan or will not be able to provide a safe home for the child. So the court can go through a process to involuntarily remove the legal rights of the parents to their children. So parents can appeal TPR. Again, I will do a whole video on TPR. Parents have a legal right to appeal it. So once their rights are terminated, they do get 30 days in my state. I'm not sure if it's the same across the country, but 30 days in my state to appeal that decision. And an appeal could overturn that and give them their rights back. That doesn't mean they get their child back. It just means they get their rights back. Or the TPR could be upheld in the appeal. Once the appeal is done and the TPR is upheld, there is nowhere else for those parents to go. Their rights are terminated. They no longer have any rights, any claim to that child. That child now technically becomes legally free for adoption. So they could be adopted by a family member. They could still do guardianship. They could be adopted by a foster parent or whatever else. And once they are adopted, their birth certificate can change to reflect the adoptive parents as the parents of the child. So termination of parental rights is permanent. And it's an involuntary legal severing of that tie. And it's a big deal and it's not to be taken lightly. But yeah, you see that one in foster circles a lot. Now, that's the involuntary. Parents can choose to sign their rights away. That is obviously voluntary. That's not involuntary. And that's just called signing their rights. I don't know that it has a technical term, waiving their rights, alleviating their rights. I don't know what it's actually called, but they can choose to sign their rights away. And there's pros and cons to signing rights versus not signing your rights, and going through TPR and whatever. But anyway, yeah, TPR is a big one. There's also, I'm trying to think of the name of it. There's like a protection plan, FPP, family protection plan maybe, or TFP, temporary protection, TPP, temporary protection plan, something like that. Those are just a temporary protective order. But sometimes you see those too and people are like, what's that? And then there's WIC, which is Women, Infant, Children. So yeah. Those are kind of the big ones. Sorry, I just had a brain fart moment. Anyway, those are kind of the big ones. I hope that helped. If you have any questions about specific acronyms, or if there's any acronyms I didn't cover that you would be interested in, of course, there are so many more acronyms out there that exist, of course, also with various diagnoses. I went into kind of some of the big diagnoses, but like there's PTSD, there's unidentified trauma disorder. There's so many different mental health diagnoses and developmental diagnoses, and just ST, speech therapy, PT, physical therapy, OT, occupational therapy. There's so many that there's just no way I could cover them all in one video. So if you have any specific acronym questions, feel free to ask me down below. But those are kind of the big ones that you'll see. I know the ones that get questioned a lot are the AS, AD, FS, FD with the number, and TPR. Those are kind of like biggies. And sometimes people don't know what a CASA is if you're in a guardian ad litem state. Sometimes people don't really understand guardian ad litem if you're in a CASA state. So like sometimes those get confusing. But yeah, that's kind of the biggies. If you have any specific questions, let me know down below. I hope this was helpful. As always, I love you guys. Go out, continue to shine your light into the world, celebrate Pride. I love you, and we'll see you next time.